Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Sunday, September 1st. We are just 1 week away from the start, or the first Sunday, I should say, only 4 days away from football. Chiefs Ravens will kick it off on Thursday night, and 1 week from our first full slate of Sunday NFL football. Super, super exciting time. We have officially hit September, first episode of September, and we have finally reached the end of a long off season. We are finally here. Football, NFL football, real football, not preseason, is on our screens this week. Episode 27. Thank you as always for tuning in. Make sure to please like and subscribe. DiMari, we have finally made it today. We'll talk a little contracts with two receivers getting new deals, but today's pretty much a season preview episode before we kick off the NFL in 4 days from now. How's it going, man?
I'm doing pretty good. It was a great weekend for college fans. If you love college football, besides Florida won to get embarrassed yesterday at 3:30. But other than that, we look ahead to the NFL. Like I said, we are 4 days away. We get it kicked off Thursday, and we have football from Thursday until Monday, like when this week starts up. So that's going to be pretty great. Mix some NFL, mixes some college. But talking about new deals, that kind of set the tone for me this week. So let's get into it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a super, super exciting time. NFL's here. Football's back. College yesterday, even though week 0, it's nice. College yesterday really, really got started in week number 1, officially kicking off, and then the NFL next week. So we'll get into all of our standings, predictions, playoff teams, dark horses, coaches with some pressure and hot seat, all that stuff. We'll preview everything in a little bit here. But before we do that, let's start with the breaking news or the biggest stories coming out of the NFL this week. Right before week 1 begins, we get 2 major contracts. We'll start with the one, we'll go in order. We'll start with the one that happened first, and then the other one that happened just about 3 days ago. We'll start in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb. He gets a 4-year extension, $136 million. The deal includes $38 million signing bonus, the largest ever given to a wide receiver, and $100 million guaranteed. It makes him the second highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history, only behind Justin Jefferson, of course, who signed that massive contract just a couple weeks ago in Minnesota. So I know you're fired up about this. CeeDee Lamb, Cowboys, all the nonsense, all the unnecessary waiting game, it felt like, is finally over. Cowboys lock up their star number 1 receiver, one of the elite talents. Forget out receiver, just one of the elite talents in the NFL overall. And now they're loaded up, ready to go. Of course, the Dak contract still lingers, but he's going to be out there most likely week 1, it seems, although I know the NFL granted them a 2-game exemption, I think it was. But CeeDee Lamb locked up, your number 1 receiver is ready to roll. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good. There's really not much to say about it. I mean, we all know he deserves the contract, and he finally got the contract. I just guess with Dallas's front office, some things you probably need to take with a grain of salt. And I know there was talked about him being traded and him holding out from regular season games and all these type of things. But with Zeke not too long ago and Zach Martin definitely like last year, it always seems like they're going to wait extremely last minute for whatever reason and then just go ahead and get a deal done. Not the ideal way of doing it, but at the end of the day, a deal is done. We need to see it out there week 1. So hopefully he is in football shape, ready to go, because you get a very, very tough Cleveland defense. And that offense is nothing without him. So I'm excited for week 1. I actually bought it back in a little bit, just a tad bit to start the season.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like, Cowboys fans, I know yourself included, feels like this offseason has kind of been disappointing overall. And the optimism, the expectations going into the year maybe isn't as high as they've been, or as high as just even going into last year, especially with another playoff exit where you lose to a rookie quarterback at home. It feels like this was a perfect timing in terms of coming right before week 1, get the fan base to buy back in a little bit, get the team a little bit to believe again. CeeDee Lamb locked up, and he deserved this. I mean, it probably took way too long, if we're being honest here. This should have been something that was done months ago, but they get the deal done. It doesn't matter. They don't ask how, they ask how many or when. I forget the saying. Either way, deal's done. We'll break down, of course, the NFC East, but just, I guess from a statistical standpoint, what do you expect CeeDee Lamb this year to do? Exactly what he did last year, over 1,700 yards. You expect him to be around that, continue to be his dominant self?
It's kind of tough. I mean, I feel like last year was so unexpected. You expect him to have a
Mhm.
good year, but now how he had. So in his case, I feel like it's kind of like I said, it's kind of tough to really say because it's like, okay, if he doesn't get 1,700 yards, let's say he gets 14 to 15, and everyone's gonna be like, okay, well, he was overpaid. Like, what happened to the CeeDee Lamb that we know? But at the end of the day, you kind of also have to go into it understanding like teams aren't going to let CeeDee beat them how he was doing last year, and they're going to need somebody else to step up. So personally, I think he will have a year very similar. I don't think he exceeds 1,700 yards, but I think somewhere around 1,600 to 1,500, and that's still a pretty good year. But I don't know if we're talking about Tyreek numbers yet, almost 2,000, just considering there's nobody else really to throw the ball
Yeah.
to. So I'm just happy to have him on the field. I don't care what production he really does. As long as he's there and present, he's going to have a huge impact on the game.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. We've talked about CeeDee Lamb a lot with is all these other receivers around the NFL, like Tyreek Hill, prime example, Jalen Waddle alongside him. CeeDee Lamb has done this without anybody really around him, and that's I think what makes it so impressive. Even you go to this next receiver in Brandon Aiyuk, he's had Deebo Samuel next to him. He's had Christian McCaffrey. He's had, of course, George Kittle. I mean, the most probably talented offense in the NFL in terms of weapons. So that's where we'll move to next is Brandon Aiyuk gets a 4-year, $120 million extension. When you look at some of the numbers in this deal, it includes $76 million guaranteed, $47 million to be paid to Aiyuk before April 1st, 2025. And he joins Tyreek Hill as the fifth highest paid receiver in the NFL with an AAV of $30 million per year. I don't know. This was weird to like. I feel like Brandon Aiyuk held out so long, and I feel like he kind of got the same contract he might have gotten even if he didn't hold out for forever. I know he might have been looking for a trade, but it feels like a very reasonable contract and a contract that probably many would have expected if this was signed months ago. What are your thoughts on the Aiyuk deal? And very important for San Francisco to get him locked up before week one. You really couldn't have this. Similar to Dallas, you didn't want this to be hanging over your head going into the season.
Yeah, I think his price tag from what he wanted might have been a little higher, but after
Mhm.
CD landed his deal, kind of reality set in. It was like, "All right, I'm not gonna get around there, so kind of let me just sign for what I signed." So I think, I mean, personally, if I'm being honest, I don't know how I feel about the deal. I mean, a guy that I work with, security guard, who's a huge Vikings fan, like great football knowledge. There's literally nothing in football he doesn't know. He kind of made a great point when we were kind of talking about the deal, where he was saying there's only a few guys, a handful of guys that deserves 30 million at the receiver position, which is CeeDee, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. He even tried to argue me that Amon Ra didn't deserve 30 mil. Anyways, to me, Amon Ra deserves 30 mil.
Yeah,
Kind of
I agree.
outside of those five, I don't think I really see anyone else that is deserving of 30 mil. If you kind of look at the five we just named and you looked at Brandon Aiyuk, like he's not that tier of wide receiver like those other guys. But at the end of the day, like he got his money, he has been consistent and he has been healthy. So I'm trying to take that into consideration. But 30 mil for Aiyuk compared to what those other five names I just named, I don't know. I feel like a little bit of a reach, especially when I don't want to say he's not the best receiver on the team, but we can argue that he might not be the best
Yeah.
receiver on the team. There might not be
He's
much drop off without him, which is
yeah.
Deebo at wide receiver.
And there's also an argument to be made, unlike CeeDee Lamb, unlike Tyreek Hill, unlike even I would say Amon Ross St. Brown, even though Laporta was great, and even though Jameer Gibbs showed a lot, he's probably not even the best weapon on the team. It's Christian McCaffrey. And look, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, number one pick in every fantasy draft. You can make the case Christian McCaffrey, if you put him on any team in the NFL, any team, he's automatically the best weapon. You can make that case. He's just the best offensive player in football. But still, you can make the case he's not the best and maybe even not the second best if you put Deebo ahead of him and his versatility, his ability, unlike CeeDee Lamb, who is clearly the best from a weapon standpoint. You look at, of course, Tyreek Hill. He's the best. Even though you got Waddle, you got a nice run game. He's definitely the best weapon they've got over there. And I'd even say Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. So, yeah, I mean, the whole Aiyuk situation's always been very interesting. When you look at his numbers last year, good numbers, but they're not top 5 elite $30 million a year numbers. 75 catches, that ranked 31st in football. His 1,342 yards was 7, so top 10. His 7 touchdowns were 18th, and his 17.9 yards per reception were 15th. So he was definitely top 15, definitely top 12. You could say top 10. Top 5, not really. And he's getting top 5 number or pay. So I totally agree with your point there. It'll be interesting to see how he comes. It'll just be interesting to see how he plays this year. It feels like these both sides were so at odds, and now all of a sudden they're like, oh, deal's done. Here we go. It feels like forever there. He wanted to get traded, was going to get traded. And now all of a sudden, just before week 1, I'm ready. I'm 100% all bought into San Francisco. So it feels like Aiyuk in a way. I guess you put it best is when the CeeDee deal got done, kind of went back to San Francisco and was like, you know what? I'll just take the money that you're probably going to give me in the first place. So, but hey, they got the deal done. And for the Jets' sake, we'll probably see Sauce and Aiyuk on Monday night, which will be 8 days from now. So definitely looking forward to that match there. Any other thoughts on this deal before we head into our 2024 predictions?
For both guys, I'm just glad it's done. Like it's been such a headache and a hassle trying to keep up with it, seeing what's the move, reading reports. So I can say glad to see 2 guys that do deserve to get paid and have been
100%.
consistently good finally get their money. And let's just hope they both have great, healthy seasons.
Yeah, 100%. I will also say this. A little bit more Aiyuk, maybe less than CeeDee Lamb. It feels like maybe San Francisco here, and I guess I'll ask you if you kind of agree with this statement as well, but it feels like a little bit with Aiyuk, they're paying more for what he's going to be than what he has been. Unlike CeeDee Lamb, it feels like he's been great. They're paying him. They're expecting that to continue. Aiyuk, it still feels like he's left some meat on the bone. This is a guy that's only had 2 1,000-yard seasons. Last year was really the first time he broke out from a yard standpoint with 1,300 plus yards. His first season, he just eclipsed 1,000, or his 2022, he just eclipsed 1,000 yards. So it feels like they're more paying Aiyuk for hoping what he's going to be than what he's been. And they hope that maybe untapped potential-wise, he can get into that maybe top 5 range as a legitimate number 1 now, if that makes sense. So
yeah, and I mean it's nothing's wrong with it because, like you said, 30 to start. Now let's say he does just break out next year and he gets around 1,600 yards, and then the following after that, 1,500, 1,600 yards. Now you're just like, okay, well, we're paying you 30 mil, but you got guys that's doing this exact same thing that's making 33, 34, 35. So in a way, it was smart for them to ink the deal that they did, and when they did, the timeliness of it, the amount of money for it, but it also hasn't been what Aiyuk has been. So unless he kind of get to that point with the next few years, I mean, there might be a possibility where we're looking back and we're just like, he wasn't worth 30 mil at all compared to some of these other guys. But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess that is a San Francisco problem. Hopefully he just lives up to the money.
And you know who's going to need a big contract soon? Brock Purdy.
Yep.
Watch out. Brock Purdy's going to get the game manager himself.
He might actually
I don't want to
make
throw
a decent amount of money.
Out there. He will.
He's going to make a decent amount of money.
I feel like that was unnecessary. I apologize. I should not be throwing the Brock Purdy slander out there. Nothing Brock Purdy did wrong. Just he's Brock Purdy. That's all. Brock Purdy. We'll see. Anyway, let's get into the division predictions before we go into a Brock Purdy tangent. So we'll start here in the AFC. What we'll do is we'll break down each division, give you a record predictions, some floors, some ceilings of each team. We'll go through all the divisions. AFC, start with that. Then we'll go to the NFC, find the 7 playoff teams from each division, and then we'll break down some dark horses, which we can kind of do during this as well. And we'll break down some coaches as well that are on the hot seat going into the season, and also some coaches that have a lot of pressure on them. Not so much maybe on the hot seat, but more so most pressure, coaches that are definitely on the hot seat, all that stuff. So really just preview everything to expect, all of our predictions going into the 2024 campaign. So we'll start in the AFC East. We'll go just work our way down, go from the East to the North to the South to the West. Then we'll go to the NFC East, North, South, West, get the playoff teams and go from there. So I guess either way, did you want to kick us off AFC East? Then we'll kind of rotate. You'll do AFC East, I'll do AFC North, whatever works best.
Yeah, I mean, we let's kick it off with the East. I think we're probably on the same page. Where we are with the AFC East. I know I said this last year. The Jets are going to win the division. I don't know what people are talking about with I get what people are talking about with Rodgers, and he's old and he was hurt, yada yada yada. But this is still the best team. If we are talking about just from not even on paper, the Dolphins might be the best team on paper, but talking from like what we've seen from guys, what we've seen from Mike Williams in with the Chargers when he was healthy, what we've seen from Tyron Smith in Dallas when he's healthy, what we've seen from Rodgers in Green Bay when he's healthy. The Jets are the best team, easily the best team in the division. I think the Jets win that division. I called it last year. It didn't happen, but it's going to happen this year. I'm going to go Jets 1, Dolphins 2, Bills 3, and that team up in like New Hampshire, wherever they play, Massachusetts at 4.
Yeah. Very glad to see Patriots there at the bottom. I think every NFL fan can agree that it's great to see the Patriots at the bottom, no matter how much, especially AFC East fans, no matter how much Bills, Dolphins, and Jets fans don't always look eye to eye, kind of hate each other at times. We can all agree it's great to see the Patriots at the bottom being bottom feeders. So, yeah, last year, of course, this was a division. 11-6 Bills, 11-6 Dolphins, both made the playoffs. Jets, Patriots missed out. I totally agree. I'm right there with you. I'll go Jets, first place, 12-5. I got the Dolphins, second place at 11-6. Bills, third place, 10-7. And then I'll throw the Patriots there in last at 4-13. You know, the way I look at this division, the Dolphins, to me, didn't really get better this offseason. They kind of stayed the same. Bills got worse. And I don't think you just, no matter how big of a Bills fan you are, you can't deny they got worse. Unfortunately, they also lost their starting linebacker, Matt Milano, to a season-ending injury, or at least an injury that'll take him out for the good portion of the season. He might come back late December playoff time, but he's going to miss most of the season. They lost both their starting safeties, lost their top 1 and 2 wide receivers. You cannot say that the Bills stayed the same or got better. They got worse. So, and the Jets to me got better. And the biggest thing is health. And I totally agree with that. This is a team that's got a lot of these players on the team have a proven track record. We saw what Mike Williams was able to do all those years behind Keenan Allen. He gets that chance to do it behind a younger Garrett Wilson. Tyron Smith is a Hall of Famer. He's been one of the best left tackles in the game, one of the greatest left tackles in the game of all time, not just during his career, really over the last decade. Just talk about all time, Tyron Smith. He's going to find himself in Canton one day. You have a Hall of Fame quarterback that we get it. He's been injured. But you look at the last time this guy was healthy, he won an MVP, because 2022, not many people realize he had a broken thumb all year on his throwing hand. So the last time he's actually been healthy, won an MVP. Not saying he's going to win MVP, but if he's 75% of what he's been, this team will win 10 to 12 games. I mean, I've talked about this so much. I could go through last year and probably give you 4 games that the Jets would have won if they had Rodgers out there. And I don't think this team's floor is either that low too. I think at worst they're probably a 9-8 team, just because they've won 7 games back-to-back years with a traffic cone at quarterback. I mean, Rodgers, they're automatically better than that. So I agree there. Jets, Dolphins, Bills, Patriots. And then we can come back and give our playoff teams from each division. But those are my 4. Now, going to the AFC North, do you have any other thoughts on the East, or did you want to move on?
No, go right to the North.
All right. So
it's a tough
going on
one.
to the North. This is an interesting division. I'll be honest, this division, I was finalizing my predictions last night, and I'll be honest, this division, I probably changed 3 times. I'll be honest. At first, I had the Bengals finishing first, then I had the Ravens. At one point, I had the Browns making the playoffs. Another point, I was trying to get the Steelers in. Either way, all 4 teams aren't going to make it. There's only one division winner. It's a very difficult decision. Last year, 3 teams made it. The Ravens 13-4, Browns 11-6, Steelers 10-7. So I will go along the lines of Ravens finishing first. As much as I want to put the Bengals first, because I really like Joe Burrow, and I think when Joe Burrow's at his best, he is better than Lamar. As much as I want to put Burrow ahead of him, I just don't see I think the Bengals kind of got worse this offseason as well. Like, they lost their starting running back. Jamar Chase recently has been holding out a little bit,
Not
like he hasn't been
not
yeah,
practicing. No,
not
street clothes.
practicing. So yeah. So what's happening there? You also lost Tyler Boyd. They got the Gesicki at tight. You don't love the tight end. I don't know. I find it hard to believe Bengals win a division over the Ravens. So Ravens won. Bengals I do have finishing in second because this was a team that went 9-8 last year with Burrow getting hurt. No reason they shouldn't be 1 to 2 games better. They'll finish in second. This is where it got tough. Browns third. Steelers 4. I know a lot of people find it hard to believe that the Steelers are going to get worse this year with probably, even if Russ is still washed, like he's better than what they've had. So people might find it hard to believe that they'll be worse, but I think they will be. So I'll go Steelers 4. Predictions: Ravens 13-4, Bengals 11-6, Browns 10-7, Steelers 9-8. Those are my North predictions.
That is quite generous with Pittsburgh at 9-8. I mean, I think I agree with the top three. Cleveland's one again, like you're saying. That's kind of hard because you're looking at that offense and how they look with Deshaun Watson last year. You're like, that's a 7-win team offensively with Deshaun Watson playing how he played last year. But they got better. You can say I think Njoku's going to have another great year. Mari Cooper got paid, so he's probably playing with a little bit more fire.
Yeah.
You get Jerry Jeudy, which Jerry Jeudy does not move the needle whatsoever, but change of scenery, might have a breakout year.
Yeah.
You look at that defense, and you're just
solid
like, so, yeah, he's a good 2. And Elijah Moore, I forgot about Elijah Moore. I think
could have left him out.
Another change of scenery, things can look different. I think if they can just stay competitive until Nick Chubb gets back, which I know is still quite some time, but they can be good. But you look at that defense, and you're just like, that defense is good enough to get them to 13, even 14 wins. If the defense plays just lights out. But I think I'm gonna agree with how you have that 1 through 3 going so far. If it was up to me, Pittsburgh is probably not winning 9 games. I think they're probably winning 7.
Yeah, I could see that. See, I don't know. When I wrote down Pittsburgh's floor is like 8 and 9. Here's my thing with Pittsburgh is I've never seen Mike Tomlin's team. He found a way to win 10 games last year with Kenny Pickett. What else? Trubisky, right? And Rudolph. Those were the 3 traffic cones or clowns, whatever you want to rate them, that took the field, and they won 10 games. Now, that's the problem though, is the division got better. Like Cincinnati, right? They get Burrow back, so they're better. So those 2 games against Cincinnati are automatically tougher. Browns as well. Now, here's my problem with the Browns, and I know we agree on this, but here's my problem with the Browns is I just don't know what you're getting out of Watson. I mean, you got vintage Flacco for 4 or 5 games. That's why they took off. And Stefanski's also a great coach. I just don't know what you're going to get out of Watson. I really don't. And that's why I think they're going to be probably 10-7. Now, I totally agree. Can they get to 12 wins? If Watson somehow gets back to kind of what he was in Houston, this could be a 12-13 win team because they've got the defense and they've got the weapons. And they'll get a healthy Chubb back at some point this year. So I could certainly see Pittsburgh going 7-10. I always just view Pittsburgh as a high floor, low ceiling team. They're very boring. They're not going to be terrible, which 7-10 is not terrible. They're not going to be like 4 or 5 win team. They're not going to probably win 10, 11 games. They're always going to be around that, or they might win 10 games. They're not going to be 11, 12 win team. They're going to be around that 7 to 9 wins, boring range, just no offense, good coaching, and a pretty good defense, which won't be enough, I don't think, in this division. But who knows? I mean, this division every year always seems to surprise everybody. And I wouldn't be shocked if Pittsburgh goes out there and you get vintage Russ for a year and they win 11 games and go into the postseason. Like Mike Tomlin has shown that he can do something with nothing the last couple of years. So I will say this. At what point do we see at what point in this division do we see a quarterback? Do we ever see a starter benched in this division? Because Burrow and Lamar will play the full season, but do we see at some point Watson get benched? And do we see Russ get benched at any point?
I think
Those feels like the two weak links.
Russ is more likely than Watson. I think
Yeah.
the leash might be a little shorter with Russ, just because you have Fields that's behind him that does have NFL starter experience. So if they feel like they can't get the ball rolling with Russ, they might go with Fields compared to Cleveland's situation. I think DTR won the QB2 job. So, I mean, you're not throwing DTR in there and kind of trusting him to go out and win you, 10, 11
Yeah.
games. But Pittsburgh probably will, especially if they know. And I know it's like you said, there can be surprises, but I think from a lot of football fans, basically anyone outside of like Steelers fans, going to this year, know Cleveland, like you are playing for a playoff spot. You are playing to potentially win the Super Bowl. But Pittsburgh, you're not playing for you're playing for a playoff spot, but I don't think you're getting there again. I know it kind of sounds weird where I'm coming from, but there's actual expectations for Cleveland to where Pittsburgh is like, let's just see if we can get in the dance and anything's possible afterwards. Like, I don't really think they have high expectations for the playoffs. So I think
Yeah.
they're going to probably be like, you know what? We're not really fighting for a playoff spot. Anyways, our division is super tough. Russ isn't getting the job done. Let's see what we can get out of the guy who we just traded for. Definitely
Mhm.
Russ. I think that leash is pretty short.
Yeah, I also agree. I also think the money that Cleveland's paying, it'd be probably pretty tough for them to just swallow that of benching Watson, who they're giving so much money. They're going to try their hardest to get that to work, even if it's struggling. Now, hey, maybe the script writers know something that we don't. You do have Winston there in Cleveland as well. Do we get a Jameis Winston, Joe Flacco run this year? 11, 12 wins. I mean, we'll never know, I
With,
guess. We'll see.
with that defense, it's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible. Although Winston will find a way to throw like 15 touchdowns and 15 interceptions in like 5 games. So we know what he does. Anyway, that's the AFC North. Also, in-season hard knocks for this division. So that'll be a lot of fun. If we get some benching of quarterbacks, that could make for some interesting television there. All right, moving on to the South. This is another division that I think is kind of strange, similar to the North. You like outside of the top, you have questions about the rest of it. Texans 10-7, only team to make the playoffs last year. Who do you got in this one?
Houston's my Super Bowl prediction to get there. So I'm going to go 13-4 with Houston. And now this has been our talk. Like, this has been our thing all off season. I don't know where to go with two. What are you going to get from Anthony Richardson? What are you going to get out of Jacksonville? Is Will Levis going to take a step like that we're not expecting?
Mm-hmm.
This one's tough. Like, I am not confident after one, but I'm going to put the Colts at 2. Weapons wise, I really like their weapons around them. I'm gonna put the Colts at 2 at 10-7. I'm gonna go Jacksonville at 3 at 9-8, and then Tennessee at 8-9, just behind them. This division is going to be so close, just from 2-3. Houston's gonna run away. 2-4.
Yeah.
Houston's gonna run away with it, but those other few, I'm not really confident.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I have the exact same, actually, literally the same records too.
Yeah.
Houston, Indy, Jacksonville, Tennessee. This is it's going to be interesting, and we both talked about it. Neither of us are very high on Jacksonville. While it is certainly possible, I wrote down Jacksonville's ceiling, I think, could be 12 wins. Like, this is a team last year that was 8-3. I think it's possible that Jacksonville, if Trevor plays well and they don't collapse like they did last year, I think it's certainly possible they can go out and be an 11, 12 win team and make a push for maybe not so much the division, because I think Houston has potential to maybe rack up a 14th win. I'm very high in Houston this year. I'm probably more high on them than anybody else, although I think we're both very high actually on them because they are both, for us, going to the Super Bowl in my opinion. But when you look at Jacksonville, like, do you love their weapons? I don't. Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis. I know you have Brian Thomas Jr., but now maybe if Brian Thomas Jr. takes a really big leap year one, you got ATN, of course. Evan Ingram's been really solid. He's completely revived his career coming over from the Giants the last couple seasons. They could certainly get there, but I don't know. I just think the Colts, Anthony Richardson, a while he wasn't great in the preseason. I like their weapons more. Love AD Mitchell. I think he's gonna have an impressive year. Michael Pittman, of course. So I that's why I see it panning out as well. Tennessee's interesting because while they're last place, Tennessee's a team that I could see. Is it crazy to say Tennessee, if Will Levis takes a jump, could be a 10-win team? I don't think so.
It's not, and that's what
It's-
I'm taking into consideration.
yeah.
I mean, with the weapons that they have, I know DeAndre Hopkins is not so
Yeah.
healthy, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, I had to watch a lot of DeAndre Hopkins last year because I had him on
Yeah.
fantasy. There was some games where he looked like Houston DeAndre Hopkins. Like there was nobody
Uh-huh.
out there that really was able to stop DeAndre Hopkins. And then you had some other games where Will Levis couldn't even get him the ball for whatever reason. Calvin Ridley's now over there. I know talk about him last year with his drops in Jacksonville is such a thing, but Calvin Ridley is still a pretty good wide receiver. Ridley's over there. Boyd is over there, who has wide receiver 2 capability, and he showed it in Cincinnati. Pollard, who I think is going to actually do pretty great this year. I mean, I know Dallas didn't look too good for him, but Dallas just sucks. Like their offense, they just suck. I'm not even gonna ramble. Dallas just sucks. We hate Dallas. Anywho, Pollard's gonna have a great year. I think they can win 10 games. It's not
Yeah.
crazy.
I agree. I don't think it's crazy. If Will Levis takes a jump, that's the biggest thing. Is if, and he looked decent last year, or he showed some flashes last year. But if Levis can take a jump, they can be, yeah, definitely an underrated or under the radar team. Um, it's crazy to think Jacksonville could be last.
I just don't believe.
I don't believe that'll happen. That's not
I
obviously
was
what we
saying I
predicted,
just don't
but
believe in Jacksonville. So if
oh yeah,
if it does happen, like it won't catch me by surprise, which
yeah,
if it should, I mean, from first to worst in what, like a 2-year span.
yeah,
But
just about that.
those those weapons, and they got a guy over there that's a little overrated, a little overpaid. So
Mm,
I think he gets a lot of pressure this year to succeed, and if not, there's going to be some talks out of Duval. So it
definitely.
really won't surprise me.
I totally agree. So Texans 1, Colts 2, Jacksonville 3, Tennessee 4. Once again, those are our predictions. Now we move on. AFC West. My God. I mean, do we even have to discuss this division? Um,
We do,
Chiefs 11 and
unfortunately.
6. Yeah, the only team to make the playoffs last year, and they won the Super Bowl. So they go for the three-peat. That's the biggest story in this division. Every other team in this division could not be more boring, could not be more bad, could not be more. I don't know. I don't want to crush them too much. But you have a team that's going for a three-peat. So this division will get a lot of airtime, will get a lot of attention because of Kansas City. Shocker, very shocker. I have Kansas City finishing first. I know that's a really hot take. That's pretty bold. I'll put them at 13 and 4. I know they had a little bit of a struggled a little bit last year in the regular season, more so than they usually do. But this year, I think they'll jump back up again. Love the Xavier Worthy pick. I think Rashee Rice should take a jump. You, of course, still have Kelsey, Pacheco only getting better. So I'll take Kansas City 1 there, 13 and 4. Get back to some of the regular season dominance that they've had in the past. As for the rest of the division, I mean, does it even matter? None of these teams are making the playoffs. I'll go Raiders 2 at 8 and 9. I'll go Chargers 3 at 7 and 10. And give me the Denver Broncos 6 and 11 in last. Maybe that's
Whoa.
generous. Generous, maybe
That
6 and 11. That might be generous, but
whoa.
you know,
Okay.
I'll go 6 and 11.
6 wins for Denver.
Generous, very generous. I mean, I don't think they're as. See, here's the thing. I don't think they're as bad as New England, and I gave New England 4 wins. And I don't think they're as bad as. Well, I don't want to spoil my NFC picks, but there's a couple teams in the NFC that I think are going to be terrible this year.
All right. Oh, I think
I'll go 6 and 11. They're finishing. They're not going to make the playoffs. You know what? Denver to me, yeah, they're last place, whatever that is. 0 and 17, 1 and 16, 6 and 11.
I mean, I
I'm
like where you
generous.
have the seeding. I think I'm going to agree with the most part on
Yeah.
that. I mean, I got Kansas City 12 and 5. Then they're going to slip up somewhere, but just to your point of they struggled last regular season, went 11-6. That's kind of crazy. Like I think
Yeah.
they're not going to struggle as much.
No, I agree.
12-5 for Kansas City. I'm gonna go 9-8. That's tough. That's tough. I'll say 8-9. I'm gonna agree with 8-9 with the Raiders. I don't think Devontae Adams is gonna be there for the full season. So this is with Devontae Adams there, but once he's shipped off to the Jets,
I
that's
like
gonna
the sound of that.
change. That 3 spot, it's gonna be the Chargers. The Chargers aren't winning 7 games. The Chargers are winning. I see both the Chargers and Denver at 6 or 5 wins. If I'm being
Yeah.
honest with you, we know Denver's gonna be pathetic. The Chargers, I mean, I don't even know how many like Justin Herbert hypotheticals we might get this year, but they are not going to be good. That defense is not. They got all the names on defense, but none of those names are doing anything on the field. They're
Yeah.
going to be absolutely terrible. So them and Denver, I think they're both battling for like bottom of the division. This is probably the race to Travis Hunter. I mean, both of them either 5-12 or 6-11.
Yeah. I agree. Five wins certainly realistic. I mean, you look at the Chargers, they won 5 games last year. They got no weapons, like you said. I mean, who's he throwing to? We talk a little about this with Buffalo all year, and maybe Buffalo has received some harsh criticism at times because it feels like all people talk about is the Bills receiving core or receiving room. But if we're being honest, Chargers just as bad, maybe even worse. I mean, maybe Lad McConkey takes over. I don't know. To me, too many people are buying into the whole Jim Harbaugh storyline. Jim Harbaugh is not going to be able to make Quentin Johnson catch the football. Let's be honest here. He's just not. Like, he might help. I think he'll help from a culture standpoint. And I think in the long run, Harbaugh will be, I think he'll build LA back up from what Staley was. But I mean, you talk about their only strength is probably a quarterback. And unfortunately, that quarterback's got no weapons. So it's a serious problem. And in Denver, look, they're going to, like you said, they're going to go through their growing pains. I mean, they're starting a rookie quarterback. I don't think Bo Nix is going to go out there and have a CJ Stroud year. So I also don't think he really has probably the weapons at his disposal like CJ Stroud had. I don't think Nico. I mean, I know they got Sutton, but other than that, I don't think a Nico Collins or a Tank Dell is going to have come out of the woodwork there for Houston or for Denver like it did in Houston. So I think we both agree there. AFC West, Chiefs dominate. Now, playoff teams. Shall we start playoff teams now, or did you want to go NFC then do?
We can stay the AFC. Do you want me to lead off with that?
Yeah, we could just go by division. How about we go by division? We'll break down each team that makes it from the division, and then we'll have 7 at the end of it for both of us. Mine probably come as a surprise. Some of my playoff teams, I'll admit.
I mean, I think for the
So we'll
most
start
part,
with the
it's
AFC East.
straightforward for the AFC East. I'm going with the Jets. I'm going with Miami. That is going to be my 2 there. Buffalo. Last year I said they weren't making the playoffs. Somehow they snuck in there. I'm going to stand on that this year, just like I'm standing on the Jets winning the division. That's my 2 out of the East. For the North, I got Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Cleveland with an asterisk. I don't know about that last spot in the playoffs. I feel like that can go to a few different teams there just throughout the AFC. But that's what I got for the North. The West, obviously, we got Kansas City. And in the South, I got Houston, but I also have the Colts taking over that spot from Cleveland, just depending on what we see from Watson, what we see from Richardson. The defense is making me lean Cleveland, but I feel like that last spot can
Yeah,
be a lot of different teams.
yeah, it could fluctuate for sure. This is going to come out of huge surprise, but I'm going to explain my reasoning. I'm going to have 3 teams making it out of the AFC East. I'm going to put the Bills in the playoffs. So I'm going to go Jets, Dolphins, Bills. As much as it might sound crazy with how much we've bashed Buffalo, I don't know. I find it hard to believe that Josh Allen is going to be sitting home in January. Like, when I look at the quarterbacks that Josh Allen is probably going to be facing off against for that final playoff spot, it's going to probably be some combination of Deshaun Watson Anthony Richardson, who I like a lot, but I don't think he's going to be elite this year. And then nobody out of the AFC West. I mean, do we really want to sit here and say Gardner Minshew? Fine. Gardner
Let's not
Minshew.
even waste our time.
It's not even, it's a waste of air. So Allen to me is the best out of all three. And I have all those teams finishing at 10-7. So I'll say the Bills make it. You also look at the Bills' schedule. This is probably going to be a team that's probably going to hover around 500 all year. You look at their final 3 games, very favorable. They get New England in week 16 at home. Then they get the Jets, which is tough, but they get them at home. So they get a tough game at home against the Jets in Buffalo in December. Tough place to play, especially if they're fighting for a wild card spot. That'll be a tough environment. And then they go to New England. So 2 of their final 3 games are against New England. If they go
ridiculous.
This is my thing with Buffalo. Is last year, if we all remember, right, they were 6-6. They fired the OC. Then they rattled off 5 straight. If Buffalo can be 6-6, 7-7, going or 7-6, 8-6, maybe, let's say 7-7, whatever, going into those final 3 games, I don't think it's crazy to say they can win out. Also, because if we're being honest, the Jets have unfortunately struggled in Buffalo recently. They haven't won there since 2019. And that was a game where Buffalo was benching their starters. So it's not crazy to say they can win there late. But they 7-7, 8-6 going to those final 3 games. New England at that point will be a dumpster fire. Drake may probably be a starter, and they'll be going through the growing pains there. So that's why I'll take Buffalo. Not going to go against Allen. Much as it pains me to say, because I wouldn't mind seeing them miss the playoffs. But those are the 3 teams. AFC North, I've got 2. I'll go Ravens, Bengals. I say Browns miss it, and then the rest of it, South Texans, West Chiefs. So 2 teams or 2 divisions with multiple playoff teams, 2 division with just 1. And 7 playoff teams there in the AFC. All right. Now moving on to the NFC. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Both Cowboys and Eagles won a division last year. Went to the playoffs, not won a division. I apologize. Cowboys won a division. Cowboys, Eagles both made the playoffs. Unfortunately, both got knocked out in the wild card round. Of course, Jordan Love to Green Bay, or Jordan Love to Dallas, and then Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm interested. What's your division prediction here?
I have the Eagles taking that division. I do. I don't know. Saquon kind of moves the needle a little bit. I mean, this was a team that was basically in sole possession of that division and just fell apart last year. I don't see it happening this year. I'm gonna go Philly to win the division at 12-5. Dallas, I'm being generous at 10-7. I mean, looking at that roster, looking at that schedule, I literally don't know how confident I am at 10-7. But as long as you got Dak and CeeDee kind of controlling the offense, I mean, there's always hope. 10-7 for Dallas. I'm going to go 8-9 for Washington. Daniel showed me a little something. I mean, I think they're going to be pretty decent with him in his first year. And I don't think the other team needs to be considered. I mean, we're talking 3 or 4 wins. I think 5, I'm going to be generous. I think 4 wins for the Giants.
Yeah. I'm gonna flip the top 2. I'm gonna say Cowboys win the division. I'm gonna continue to roll with Dallas. I know Philly on paper, it seems like they got a lot better, but to me, I don't want to jump on the Philly train just yet, just because of the way it ended last year. I need to see a little bit more from the Eagles. As for Dallas, they've proven it a little bit more recently in the regular season. I know on paper, Dallas probably got worse. You could probably say the running back room suffers maybe a little bit. I know they signed Cook, but I mean, as a Jet fan, Cook is cooked. No pun intended. This is not helping my case as to why I picked Dallas to win the division. I'm just saying I'm just going to go with Dallas. They've won the division. I still need to see it. I have some concerns about Sirianni. I have some concerns about how much control he actually has over that locker room in Philly after what happened last year, where it felt like he kind of lost it. This is it for him. He fired the defensive coordinator, bring in a new defensive coordinator. This is it. No more excuses for him. So I'll go Dallas, CeeDee Lamb, Dak connection, solid defenses, which is what they've had. I know, of course, no more Dan Quinn. Could be a little bit of a concern there defensively, but we'll still roll with Dallas.
Hear me
CeeDee
out.
Lamb and Dak.
I actually think the defense gets better under Mike
Okay.
Zimmer this year. I know like last 3 years under Quinn, top 5 in points per game,
Yeah.
and like top 3 2 years in turnovers, like forced turnovers. But from what I've seen from the preseason, at least, we are going away from that hybrid safety linebacker where we're playing like Marquise Bell, who was a safety in college.
Hmm.
Donovan Wilson obviously was a safety, playing them at linebacker, going back to like a traditional, I believe, 4-3, three linebackers, moving Michael Parsons around. That's going to be huge. I mean, Deron Bland missing 6 to 8 weeks, though, is a blow to the defense. So we're probably going to throw our 5th-round rookie, Kalen Carson, out there to kind of start in place of him. But Diggs is back. Jordan Lewis is back, fully healthy. We're actually playing linebackers at linebacker now. They might not force a lot of turnovers like they did last year, although in the preseason, they were very successful forcing turnovers. I think they had 6 in 3 games where they forced 4 of them being in 1 game. So even if they're not a team that forces a ton of turnovers next year, like 30 plus, how they did the last 2, I do think they're going to be great in terms of just holding opponents to like under, 25 points per game.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, getting Diggs back is huge. Unfortunately, and of course, Bland was placed on IR. So I don't. Do you know exactly how long that is?
6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
Yeah, so
that's
he's
pretty
probably
crazy.
looking at after the bye, and I think the bye was October 16th. I
Okay.
could be incorrect. I can't remember exactly, but it's looking like he's gonna be out for that period of time, gets the bye week, and we'll be back after the bye week if everything is kind of on track.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and I think too with Diggs, of course, getting Trevon Diggs back in terms of is huge. Of missing him last year was pretty tough. Um, so Dallas, I'll have 11-6. I'll have Eagles at 11-6. Well, I think they're both finished the same record. I'll just give the tiebreaker here to Dallas. As for Washington, I liked what I saw out of Daniels in the preseason. I'll go 6-11 for Washington. And
Well, yeah,
well,
Daniels was great. 6 wins.
yeah, 6-11. Well, I
Their team,
forget.
their roster's not that good, but I said
Yeah,
8 and 9
eight and nine.
generously.
Yeah.
But
And in the Giants, can I say 0-17? I mean,
absolutely, they did. You see that midfield logo they're starting for week 1?
oh, I
You
know.
you you can't lose.
Those jerseys and with the dumpster is going to be in those. I'm just going to say this: we will see at some point Tommy DeVito under center this year for the Giants. So I'm going to say
Absolutely.
I'll give the Giants. I put down 5-12 because it was like they were 5-12 last year or 6-11 last year. I don't. I'll say 5-12. I don't want to be too harsh and put them at 4-13. I'll say 5-12. The preseason really concerned me. Daniel Jones was awful. I mean, this was a guy that couldn't struggling against second teamers. I don't know. So I'll say Giants 4th. So Dallas, Eagles, Commanders, Giants. Now I move on to the North. Last year, this is an interesting division. Going to be intriguing to see what happens here. Last year, it was the Lions 12-5, Packers 9-8, the 2 teams that made the playoffs. Vikings and Bears both finished at 7-10, missed the postseason. I think it's pretty obvious at the top. Lions win this division. I'll go Lions 13-4. They win the division. Locked up all their own pieces. Of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You locked up Penei Sewell as well. Jared Goff, of course, continues to play well. And even Jahmyr Gibbs. He'll continue to get better, hopefully continue to kind of continue on the trajectory he's currently on. Very solid defense. I think they got a lot better in the secondary. And you hope that Dan Campbell learned from some of maybe his mistakes from an aggressive standpoint at times last year. I don't see how. I know some people think, oh, it's the Lions. They're bound to take a step back. This team's loaded. I don't see how they do that. So I'll take Lions 13-4. Second place Viking or Packers, not Vikings. Jeez. No,
Whoa,
I did
whoa,
not. No, I'm
whoa,
sorry.
whoa.
Second place Packers. All right. I can't wait to get to the last place Vikings to talk about Sam Darnold. So fired up for that. Second place Packers, 11-6. I know you're not going to probably like that, but I'm high on the Packers this year. I think the Packers are potentially a team that can. I believe that the Packers are a team that can come out of the NFC and get to the Super Bowl. I think they're maybe a dark horse, but I believe that they can. They added Josh Jacobs. You got Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, all getting better. Really a big fan of Jaden Reed. Jordan Love, of course, coming off the big contract. Some questions around the defense, but overall, they did add Xavier McKinney. They added some pieces back there this offseason. Well, yeah. Right? Yeah, McKinney was this offseason. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
So Green Bay, second, 11-6. Young team that's continuing to get better. Bears in third at 10-7. And then Vikings in last at 6-11.
All right. Okay. I mean, I think we're on the same page as the
I was
Lions.
tempted to put Packers at 12-5. I'll be honest. I love the Packers this season. I'm very high on the Packers.
Well, here's my thing. We're gonna go with the Lions. We're gonna stick with the Lions. I'm gonna say 12-5. I'm gonna say 12-5. I'm going with the Bears at 2. I'm just gonna stick with it. I'm going with the Bears at 2. I'm going Bears 11-6. I think they're gonna be good. I think I might be the highest on the Bears probably out of anyone that I've spoken to. So I'm gonna go with the Bears. I'm gonna go Green Bay at 3 at 10-7. I don't think they're sneaking up on nobody like how they did last year. I don't trust the receivers. Matt LaFleur is a hell of a coach, but one thing I can say, if history goes on how it goes, when like I like to bet on certain teams and put certain teams on my fantasy team, anything that is attached to my name absolutely just is a train wreck. I have Jordan Love on fantasy this year. He's not going to have that good of a year. This is the year where he absolutely is Jameis Winston, 30 for 30. But they're going to go 10-7 some way, somehow. And I agree with the Vikings at 6-11.
All right, so you're going with the Caleb Williams hype. Rolling on the Caleb Williams hype train.
Absolutely. I got to.
So that's what I feel like, honestly. That's what the NFC North is. It's just two big hype trains.
Basically,
like the Lions aren't really a hype train. Vikings are Sam Darnold's their quarterback, so there is no hype there. But when you look at the second and third place team, most likely are you either on the Packers hype train of being 2-3 wins better than they were a year ago, or are you on the Caleb Williams hype train of this guy might have a CJ Stroud season and they're going to win 10, 11 games? So two trains rolling through. We'll see which one is stronger. Another interesting division, NFC South. Bucks won the division last year at 9-8. I guess I'll throw this one to you since I did the North. So who do you got in this division?
Of course, Atlanta at 1. They're going to go 12-5. I like the Bucks again. But what if I said the Bucks are going 10-7? 10-7 with the Bucks. I'm going to go Carolina here at 5-12. Oh, this division is so bad. And then I think the Saints bench Derek Carr somewhere around week 6. Alvin Kamara is possibly traded. I'm going to go with the Saints at, I guess, 4-12. I can probably even go 3-13. Travis Hunter stays in black and gold from Colorado to New Orleans next year. This team is going to be bad. I'm going to go 4-12.
I'm pretty much right there with you. I'll go Atlanta number 1, 12-5. Tampa number 2, 10-7. Carolina 5-12. And I'll also say New Orleans 5-12. I think both of them finishing last. I'll go Carolina with the tiebreaker. I think Carolina will be better. I mean, they were 2-15 last year. They were so bad. There's no way they're worse than that. There's no way they're like really better than that. I mean, I think at most you're maybe looking at a 6-win Panthers team. I don't really think this is a team that can probably win more than that. So I'll go 5-12 Panthers and 5-12 Saints. I mean, yeah, I mean the Saints are a disaster. You look at their receiving core outside of Chris Olave, they've got nobody, no receivers. I mean, Taysom Hill might be playing quarterback at some point again.
And running back.
Yeah,
and
tight end.
and linebacker. Yeah, they need a lot of
and
help.
Coaching, because Dennis Allen's probably going to get fired. They like Kamara, but he might be out of there. I mean, he's leaving practice after he's seen Derek Carr throw footballs, so that's not a good thing. The Saints, to me, they're just not going to be very good. So I'll say the Saints 5-12. They finished in last. Falcons, Bucks, Panthers, Saints. Those are your four. Last division. Move on here. NFC West. Interesting division here too. Rams 12-5 or 49ers 12-5, Rams 10-7. Those are your top two teams last year. Those were the two teams to make it. Seahawks 9-8, they missed the playoffs. Cardinals 4-13, they missed the playoffs. I'm going to roll with San Francisco number one. I think this is pretty obvious. I don't think, as much as losing another Super Bowl is very tough to overcome again, I don't think there's any sort of hangover. I don't think they have a down year. Lots of pressure because they got to win, especially if they get to the Super Bowl. They got to finally finish. Shanahan can't go 0-3. So I'll say San Francisco number one, 12-5. They're still one of the most talented rosters in football. So little by little here, they're starting to get some of their contract situations figured out. Trent Williams is the next big one they've got to get ironed out here before the season. Number one, Niners. Number two, Rams. As much as Seattle might seem interesting, again, new coach, we'll see what happens. As much as I am interested to see what Arizona can do, and despite losing Aaron Donald to retirement, I don't think the Rams are going to take much of a drop-off. Veteran team, Matthew Stafford still got a lot left in the tank. Sean McVay, we all know what he can do as a coach. Give me the Rams at 11-6. And then 7-10 to close things out. Cardinals 7-10, Seattle 7-10. I'll say the Cardinals are third place. Then the tiebreaker, I'll be honest, I could see both these teams being 9-10 wins. And I like the Cardinals a lot. I think the Cardinals are going to be a lot better than what people expect. I think the Cardinals are a team that, like I said, look, I haven't winning 7 games, so I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But this could be a team that I think will play meaningful games in December. They might be, 6-6, 6-7, however we see it, with a chance to maybe go on a run. Their schedule down the stretch is kind of favorable. Coming out of they have a week 11 bye week. They'll be in it by their week 11 bye week. I don't think this is a 4-win team, 5-win team. I think this team's going to be a little bit better. Marvin Harrison, Kyler Murray connection, I think, has a lot of potential. So that's how I see the bottom of it. And to be honest, Seattle, to me, I know new coach, a little bit of new hope, but I feel like you may have reached your peak with Geno, it feels like, in a way, where I just don't know how much better he's going to be. So that's how I see that division. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I like San Fran at 1 at 12-5. I got the Rams at 10-7. They're a pesky team. They're so annoying. They're one of those teams that pops up on your schedule, and it's not like a San Francisco or a Baltimore where you fear going into that game, but at the bottom of your heart, you kind of know this team is for real. That is the Rams. They're annoying, but I'm gonna go 10-7. Seattle, I'm gonna go 8-9, and then Arizona, I'll say 7-10. I don't know. That's me being generous. I am not really on the Arizona hype. I'm not on the Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison hype. I don't believe in James Conner that much. I know this is a team at the end of the year last year. For God's sake, they beat us in week 2 with Josh Dobbs. But I know this team beat some very solid teams last year, kind of at the end of the year towards their stretch. But was that more about Philly is the team I'm thinking specifically? Was that more about Philly just being terrible at that moment, or was that the Cardinals starting to piece some things together and figure some things out?
Yeah.
I'm not too big on the Cardinals hype, but I'll say 6-7 wins. I'll lean 7-10.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. It is interesting what you said there, actually. Now that you kind of think about it a little bit, was that big win in Philly, which seemed like maybe things were turning for Arizona, more a result of the Eagles just playing terrible and losing Sirianni, or more of a result of the Cardinals figuring things out with Kyler? I'll tell you what, you bringing up Josh Dobbs just makes just last year so much more crazier. He was like the big story last season in the NFL. Who knows? Who knows what we're in for this year?
And disappeared.
Yep. Disappeared, and now does. I don't even know. Is he anywhere?
Who did he play?
He is with San Francisco.
Preseason. Okay, I don't remember him playing preseason. Interesting.
He is San Francisco's third quarterback behind Brandon Allen.
Brock
All
Purdy
right.
gets hurt. Brandon Allen gets hurt. Josh
Josh
Dobbs.
Dobbs.
If Josh Dobbs leads San Francisco to
Oh
if
my
this
God.
happens, if Josh Dobbs leads San Francisco to the playoffs, like
Shanahan will find a way.
I don't care if it's a 7 seed. That makes Trey Lance look so much worse. Like that whole Trey Lance situation, so
Oh,
much worse. But I think Brock Purdy gets a little discredited
Josh
if
Dobbs
that's the
finds a way
case.
to Dobbs finds a way to work in the offense. If Dobbs plays it down for the 49ers this year and looks good doing it, that just proves the point that it does not matter. Any quarterback's going to work in that system. That
Absolutely.
further proves it. So anyway, playoff teams. We'll go to the East. I guess since you started with AFC, I'll do NFC. So East, I've got Cowboys, Eagles. No surprises there. Go to the North. This is interesting. I originally put the Bears in, but now I didn't. I'm going to go Lions, Packers out of the North. Falcons out of the South. And in the West, I'm going to go with the 49ers. And I know you can make a case, maybe the Bears, maybe the Bucks, but I'm going to go with old reliable. I'm going to go with Stafford and the Rams in the West to make the playoffs. So those are my 7. Cowboys, Eagles, Lions, Packers, Falcons, 49ers, Rams. What about you?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty similar. I mean, East, I got right now. I have Philly and Dallas. I'm not too bought in with Dallas, so that can change. But right now, what I got on paper, we'll say Philly and Dallas. That is coming out of the East. For the North, Detroit and Chicago. Packers got a chance to get in there. Not too sure yet. South, we're going Falcons and Bucks, and then West, I have the Niners with the Rams possibly getting in there. So just to clear up any confusion, I know I kind of just went all over the place. Division winners: Lions, Niners, Eagles, Falcons. Wild card at the moment: Bears, Cowboys, Bucks. But I feel like the Cowboys and Bucks have the chance to get pushed. Either one, Cowboys, Bears, or Bucks, all have the chance to be pushed out of there, and then the Packers and Rams take up 2 of those spots, and maybe the Bucks fight for 3. With that 7 spot, it can go anywhere. But I'm not too confident with Dallas.
Yeah, it's the NFC is so interesting this year because I feel like it's more interesting than years past. I mean, it's little by little getting a little bit stronger. I mean, because you look at like the NFC East, right? If you don't or even just I mean the Cowboys, I guess you could say a bubble team a little bit. Then you have the Bears, you have a team like the Bucks, you have a team like the Rams. I don't really. That's probably it. Maybe Seattle if they were a 9-win team last year. Maybe they'll be in the conversation. But yeah, I mean I don't think so. But it's interesting. I mean, so is the AFC. I mean, the AFC is probably even more interesting because you could probably make the case for 4 AFC North teams making the playoffs. You can make the case for 3 AFC East teams. You can make the case for 3, maybe 4 AFC South teams. And in the AFC West, I mean, you could probably make a case for 3 teams getting the first pick in that division, but that's probably about it. So, anyway, those are our 14 playoff teams, 7 on each side. What are some dark horses for you this year?
Are we talking about dark horse as in a Super Bowl, or are we just talking about playoff potential, probably get in and see where they can go?
I guess, I don't know. I guess a little bit of both. I mean, I guess playoffs. Just get in. Teams that can maybe make a kind of surprise everybody.
I mean, NFC, I'm gonna go Falcons and Bears. And I know we picked the Falcons to be division winners, and obviously I'm pretty high on the Bears, but this is a Falcons team we've seen absolutely do nothing for who knows how long. So I think that culture can just completely just shift, and they can be pretty good. They got some chances. I know the Chiefs, they got pretty early. So we get a chance to see them early to see how they kind of match up against some high caliber teams. So I'm going to go with the Falcons and the Bears. I'm very high on the Bears. I think their weapons are just too good compared to the rest of the division. I mean, they are pretty matched up good with Detroit. But I think the Bears are going to surprise some folks. So that is my NFC dark horses.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I'm going to go Bears, dark horse. Falcons, dark horse too, even though we put them in the top of the division. Those are probably the two. I mean, maybe maybe like a real dark horse to make the playoffs. Cardinals. I have them at 7 and 10, but I don't know. I believe in the Cardinals a little bit more this year than I usually do. That's probably a bad thing. But
I don't know about them. I gotta wait and see them throughout kind of first few games.
Yeah. As for the AFC, there's probably more dark horses. I think you could say the Colts maybe are a dark horse. Tennessee's probably one of the biggest dark horses that could potentially get into the playoffs. Maybe Pittsburgh, Cleveland, if you want to consider one of those two teams a dark horse. AFC West, not really.
I say even the Jets. I mean,
because
people are counting them out.
Yeah,
that's where I got them. They got them in. I got the Jets and the Titans. Colts, possibly. Those are my three where I feel like kind of you don't really know too much what you're going to get from them, but can have great years. Yeah, that's three.
Yeah, I agree. The Jets are definitely a team too. And hey, if you want to throw like another team in the AFC East in there, maybe Buffalo, because a lot of people are counting Buffalo out as a team that even with Allen could still maybe make a playoff push. But I like that Jets idea because as much as there are people hyping them up, there is a lot of people that don't believe. I mean, geez, Colin Cowherd doesn't even have making the playoffs. Although I think he might actually have the Chargers making the playoffs. So that automatically makes his take about everything invalid. He loves Harbaugh. He loves Jim Harbaugh.
I also believe he had Washington finishing as the 5th seed, if I'm correct. So I'm not taking that guy serious.
There was an earthquake in California. I don't know if you saw that video of him, and he was like, that was people think that was an earthquake. That was just Jim Harbaugh drawing up a game plan for the Chargers. I'm like, no, that was probably Quentin Johnson dropping his 10th pass of practice.
Oh my God, Colin Cowherd. I don't even.
I don't get the Chargers hype.
I don't. There's literally nothing you can look at the chart. This how bad I know the Chargers are possibly going to be. I have done 2 fantasy drafts just in total, and I've watched a friend of mine do one. In each 3 of those leagues, Justin Herbert went undrafted. So I mean, for some reason he's going undrafted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not buying into the Chargers.
Neither am I. I'm not buying into them either. All right. I guess we can close things out here. Some pressure, hot seat rankings, whatever. Some coaches that are on the hot seat, some coaches that got some pressure on them this year. I guess for me, right off the bat, I mean, we've talked about him a lot. I think Robert Saleh, he's probably got one of the hottest seats and some of the most pressure in the NFL. I mean, the excuses for the New York Jets are out the window. There is no more excuses. If Rodgers and this team is healthy, there is no excuse they should not be a 11-12 win team that should win the division, get to the playoffs, win a playoff game, make a deep run. So I think Robert Saleh's up there. I think you can make a case for Sean McDermott in Buffalo. Could be a name that could be on the hot seat, some pressure, right? They fired the offensive coordinator last year. That is usually, I know he's not an offensive minded coach, but usually a head coach firing an offensive coordinator is sometimes a sign of not a latch ditch effort, but a sign of, okay, like I'm not doing my job well enough. I need somebody else to be a scapegoat. So then, that, and then they started winning, of course. So everybody thinks that's the reason. But if they go out there this year, win 6-7 games, he hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs. Is it crazy they move on? I think he's got some pressure, maybe a little bit of a hotter seat than some think. As for the AFC North, not really. I mean, I don't think anybody there. Maybe Mike Tomlin, but I don't think so, really.
I think they just extended him like this past.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think he's all right.
Yeah. AFC South, maybe Doug Peterson. You can maybe make a case. AFC West, probably I would just say Antonio Pierce. Probably. I don't see Denver moving on from Sean Payton after this year, no matter how bad it gets. I think they're going to try and give him the chance to develop a quarterback. Jim Harbaugh's not going to get fired after year 1. And Andy Reid's Andy Reid. He's got a job pretty much for life. He's probably going to be there until he retires. I would say Antonio Pierce. Like last year, they were good, but if they win 4 games this year, is it crazy to say, okay, this isn't going to work out if it's a mess? Any others in the AFC that you believe?
No, I agree with Salah. I kind of broke mine down a little differently. I have just hot seat, and then I have under pressure, which are the
Okay, yeah,
guys that need to absolutely get it done. So just the two in the AFC, I agree
yeah.
with Salah. I have him on the hot seat where
Mm-hmm.
it's either figure it out or you can pack your bags and get ready to take the subway to LaGuardia and get out of there.
Yeah,
That I think that's kind of where he's at right now. If they don't figure it out, and
he'll
under
be flying.
pressure, I have. Oh,
Oh,
sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
he'll be
Go ahead.
flying. He'll be flying out of like Frontier Airlines.
Yeah,
Spirit
absolutely. Get your
Airlines.
last little slice of New York pizza from Times Square and go ahead and head to the airport and get on out of here. I think that's where he's at. If they don't figure it out, and under pressure, I have Doug Peterson. I know
Yeah,
we have said a lot about the Jags, but I mean, you gave Trevor Lawrence a huge amount of money. He literally robbed your organization. This is actually not even the first robbery in the organization this offseason. They also had an employee like stealing Teslas, or it was something crazy. Some news broke. So quite some robberies in the organization. There's it's for that team. I mean, there's so much going on with them. From I would say you can go from first to worst. They got plans for like a new stadium in the future. So they obviously think the team is going somewhere and need to do it big, and they just aren't they aren't getting it done. So I'm gonna go with Doug Peterson up as my under pressure coach.
mm-hmm. You know what else is? I don't know how I want to phrase this, but I mean, this is a team that's loaded with pressure this year. Could you make a case in terms of pressure? D'Amico Ryans has got some pressure, not from a job security standpoint. He is safe, but from a success standpoint, everybody, including we just talked about it, everybody's expecting them 12, 13 wins, win the division. You got Stephon Diggs. The defense is still loaded. Like CJ Stroud in year 2, everybody is expecting them to make the playoffs, make a really strong run to the Super Bowl. He's
Yeah,
got
I
pressure from
agree.
that standpoint, you know.
I agree 100%.
Um, but yeah, I agree with yours as well. I don't think there's any other like Zach Taylor's safe, Harbaugh's safe. None of those guys really.
Yeah.
I don't think have much pressure unless the wheels really fall off in Cincy. Like if they win 6 games, 7 games, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
No.
NFC. I think you got to start with the Cowboys, right? McCarthy. I mean, you could put pressure, hot seat, everything really on him. He's similar to Robert Saleh. Feels like if he doesn't get it done this year, he's gone.
Yeah, I can lead off NFC. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have McCarthy on the hot seat, but I do have McCarthy and okay, all right, I have McCarthy under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have him on the hot seat quite yet. I know that was a big debate, before Jerry Jones decided to bring him back. But I'm just looking at it where 12-5 in 3 straight years. Yes, they're getting to the playoffs and they're not getting the job done in the playoffs. But also at the same time, let's not act like Jerry Jones is just not completely just destroying this team like in front of our eyes. I mean, you get rid of Amari Cooper and it's a lot. Just he's under pressure. I don't think you can easily walk away from a coach that constantly keeps you competitive and you're winning games. But at the end of the day, it is Dallas, and we don't want to see playoff appearances necessarily. We want you to do something in the playoffs. So he's definitely under pressure. And for the hot seat, I mean, I have Dable, I have Dennis Allen, and I got Nick Sirianni. With Dable and Allen, I mean, I think they're getting fired. Dable's case is so unfair. Just with what they got over there, it's pretty bad. But at the end of the day, business is business. I think he's out of there. Dennis Allen is definitely out of there. And
Dennis Allen's already fired, if we're being honest.
Yeah, he's fired. They're already prepping for.
I made a separate list. Fired.
Yeah, he is. They probably already got a U-Haul ready to go for Dennis Allen, but he's out of there. And then Sirianni, I know it sounds crazy to say because he's in the Mike McCarthy boat in a sense where it's like, okay, well, we're competitive. Like we're getting to the playoffs, we're winning divisions, but I just feel like we haven't really seen a team that has been good like Philly, where the coach does not necessarily have the locker room, and I think that's the case for them. So Philly gets to the playoffs. Let's see, they get to the wild card and they lose first round again. I think he's out of there, and the
Yeah, I
guy's
agree.
an
I think,
idiot. So yeah,
yeah, definitely. I think Sirianni, pressure, hot seat, both up there. Dable's interesting. I don't know where Dable stands in the like what would have to happen this year for him to get fired, because he wins a playoff game first year. Last year was a mess, although his starter got hurt, I guess. I don't know. I think this year I still feel like Dable. I feel like they're still going to probably give him 1 year, maybe with a new quarterback, which he wanted a quarterback. I mean, how many times at Hard
that
Knocks
is
was he like, do you like Jaden Daniels? Nobody else could speak, and he's like, yeah, give me Jaden Daniels. I mean, it probably would have been the same thing if it's like, do you want to trade Daniel Jones? He probably would have jumped up and said, yeah. I feel bad a little bit for Dable. He does not want Daniel Jones. You could just tell. He does not want Daniel Jones. He'd so much rather a rookie. He'd so much rather go through the process that he went through in Buffalo, where he developed Allen. Not saying he's going to make another Josh Allen, but so I think the Giants might cut him some slack there. We'll see. But hey, if they win 4 games and it gets ugly, I mean, if you're looking at back-to-back losing seasons, is it crazy to say they could get rid of him? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I agree. McCarthy, Sirianni. The only guy that's probably 100% safe in that division is Dan Quinn, because it's year one. I don't think,
absolutely,
unless if he
absolutely.
goes 0-17, Dan Quinn's going to be there for more than 1 year. As for the NFC North, I'm kind of maybe Eberflus, maybe Kevin O'Connell a little bit, but then again, Kevin O'Connell, he doesn't have a real quarterback, so I don't think they're going to get rid of him. NFC South, I agree. Dennis Allen, I mean, they're probably going to get caught with tampering, because they're probably already interviewing candidates before they're supposed to.
Yeah,
So they'll win 3
they
games and then they'll
tough.
get all this tampering on them. Yeah, Dennis Allen's not going to survive. I mean, Dennis Allen, does he even survive the season?
No,
He might not even survive the season.
week
If they
6 or 7, he's out of there.
yeah,
He's gone.
100%. If they're 1-6, 2-6, he's gone. Um, Other than that, yeah, I mean, Atlanta new coach, Carolina new coach, Tampa. I don't think Bowles will get fired. I think he's done enough to probably, even if they maybe have a little
Yeah,
bit of a rough year, I think they probably keep him around. Although maybe he is. I mean, maybe they're kind of taking it year by year with Bowles. And in the NFC West, probably really not anybody, right? Like you said,
no, I think
I don't.
everyone's pretty secure over there.
Maybe if they win 4 games, do they get rid of Jonathan Gannon? If they have back-to-back terrible seasons, possibly, but I don't think so. Um, Shanahan's safe. The only way. Now, Shannon's got a lot of pressure. I could put
He's under
Shanahan under
pressure.
pressure too.
I
Yeah.
do agree. He is under pressure.
Because if they go to another Super Bowl, I'll be honest, I don't know what happens if they go to another Super Bowl and they lose again. Do they stick with them? I don't know, because then that's 0-3 in the Super Bowl back. Like, how many more times do we need to see him lose in the big game? Then you start to just, I mean, the thing is, you're not going to get another coach like Shanahan from a regular season perspective and a playoff perspective. But when it comes to the big game, he can't get it done. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Shanahan's
tough.
interesting.
It's tough. It's like the Mike McCarthy situation, kind of
Yeah.
all over again. Like to a point, you like we know you're going to get us there, but it's just in Shanahan's case, like, hey, at least I'm going to get you to the Super Bowl. We're not going to get it done in the Super Bowl. So I don't know. You're not going to find anybody that can kind of step in and necessarily just get you to the Super Bowl. So a coach that has the experience and kind of the scheme to get you there is huge. So I don't think they get rid of him.
Yeah. No, I agree. Definitely interesting to see what happens. Surprises? Probably not. I don't know any like real surprises. I think Dable for me would be a little bit of a surprise. Eberflus maybe would be a surprise, because then they're going to want to give him a chance with a new quarterback. And I also think the Bears are going to be that bad this year. Like, I think the Bears, I mean, we have predicted them to go 10-7.
Mm.
They don't. They go 10-7. Other than that, I mean, maybe Zach. No, Zach Taylor's not getting fired. I mean, if the Bengals go 7-10 with Burrow, maybe, but I don't.
Yeah.
Nah,
No, I don't.
probably
I don't
not.
see it.
Yeah, I don't see any real surprises. McDaniel just got a new contract. Not that they would move on from him, but Anyway, any closing thoughts? Actually, predictions, game predictions. Who do you got winning? Chiefs, Ravens, Eagles, Green Bay.
I'm going to go with that Chiefs receiving core is garbage. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and I am going to go two teams I hate equally. Oh no, not equally. Uh, I'm gonna go with the Eagles here, but I need Jordan Love to have a good game for fantasy purposes.
Yes, I'm gonna go Chiefs. They're at home. They're gonna win. They're not gonna mess up like last year. They're full. Last year, they didn't have Kelsey, they didn't have Chris Jones. So I'm gonna go Chiefs, and I'm gonna go Packers. I'm high on the Pack. I can't sit here and say Packers are winning 11 games and then go against them week 1. I'm gonna go the Packers. Jordan Love. I got my fantasy draft in 8 minutes, so Jordan Love might be on my team. Kyler Murray might be on the team. I don't take quarterbacks early, so if I end up with Kirk Cousins, it's not crazy. All right, Brock Purdy, I was showing you my highlight reel last year. Brock Purdy made it onto my roster. So, anything goes in my fantasy team because unfortunately just the success hasn't always been there. But anyway, closing thoughts. NFL's back Thursday night, 4 days from today. We are, for any of those that care, the Jets fans out there, Aaron Rodgers days away from Jets Niners. Victory
Football's
Tuesday.
back. That's all I got to say, and I cannot wait for them to determine my mental health until I'll probably call it a quits. Yeah, January. We don't ever get past. We don't ever get past like the first week of January. So, second week of January. Sorry. So yeah, that's that.
Anyway, that'll close it up. 2 games. We'll be back Saturday, Sunday next week, either day, previewing all the action. It's going to be a fun season. Enjoy the ride, NFL fans. That's all I say. Enjoy the ride. The ride is never easy, but it's always bumpy. As for a Jets fan, it's not bumpy. It's always just downhill. This year, that's different. Cowboys, it's going to be an interesting season. See what happens. I still believe. And
Man.
We'll see. Football is here. That'll do it. So see you next week. I don't have anything more to say. I'm gonna go fire up the fantasy football draft, and I'm gonna go draft the winner this year. 8 years, never won. This is the 9th year, entering my 9th season. I'd be fired by now. I'm entering Jeff Fisher territory when it comes to fantasy football. I mean, every year I am like 7-7, 500 every single year, and they just keep me around. So hopefully this year's different. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for watching.